support this campaign because even though it's a public sector fight right now, we know that private sector corporations are waiting in the wings ready to do the same thing. I'd like to share with you 3 key questions which need focused answers to stop the ongoing economic undermining of pensions in Canada. Why are we here today? To oppose the direction of the federal government's framework on pensions. Who has the most influence on government policy and legislation? Canadian citizens or multinational corporations? And how do we change the foundation of this discussion to benefit all Canadians? The well-researched and nationally supported proposal to increase the Canada Pension Plan was not implemented by this government. The implementation of target benefit plans on current retirees is an absolute betrayal of the public trust. For future retirees, it is another sham to continue the ongoing and growing inequity of income distribution in this country. This current discussion only makes sense if you separate it from the rest of the economic reality in Canada. Corporate taxes have never been lower. The justification is job creation. The reality is lower corporate responsibility and financial contribution to a fair and just society. There's more wealth being created in Canada today than there was when the country brought about huge improvements in social equality through public health care, affordable education, public and private sector pensions, unemployment insurance, etc. These changes were predominantly achieved in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. The reality today is that most of the prosperity being generated is going to a minority of Canadians. Today, CEOs make 206% more than the average worker in Canada. According to a recently released report from the Broadbent Institute, the top 10% of Canadians accounted for almost half of the wealth generated in 2012. The bottom 30% of Canadians accounted for less than 1% of the wealth. And the bottom 50% combined controlled less than 6%. Who has the most influence on public policy and legislation? When 50% of Canadians do not vote, there's a vacuum created in Ottawa. And this vacuum is filled with corporate lobbyists whose function it is to enable the maximization of corporate profits. This is what corporations are designed to do. They are not designed to consider the distribution of wealth in a country, the standard of living, environmental protection, healthcare, or anything else that has societal value. Do we think the end result will be anything other than a reduction in our standard of living and an absolutely incredible decline in our global environment? Corporations are setting the agenda nationally and globally for us, but they cannot, will not have our interests at heart. How do we change the conversation? First of all, we must reject the assumption that our only option is to defend ourselves from the constant barrage of attacks on the social values which the clear majority of Canadians hold. We must reject the twisted implications of terms like intergenerational equity. This term is designed to generate guilt among seniors who clearly understood all forms of equality when building the social fabric we know as Canada. Students, veterans, First Nations, youth, public and private sector workers, and aging Canadians are building relationships today so that we can stand together to again build a fair and just society called Canada. The inequity which we must be addressed is the distribution of wealth in this country. And in conclusion, we must challenge the ability of corporations to set our national agenda. It is not their right or their responsibility, it's ours. Every single Canadian must embrace this responsibility. To begin, call your member of parliament today. Whether you voted or support this MP doesn't matter. They still represent you. The only thing that matters is your participation. Tell them how you feel about breaking promises made to people who worked their entire lives with the trust that the government would protect what they were promised in their pensions.
Absolutely.
Tell them next year you'll vote for somebody that represents their interests.